So you keep losing work to people worse than you. And every time it happens, you're thinking, maybe I need to niche down, or maybe I need to work on my personal brand, sharpen my messaging, or something like that. Because that's what everyone says you should be doing. But it's incomplete. And the reason I can tell you this is because I've tried it. And I was still losing work to people with way worse portfolios than me. What actually changed things for me is something a lot of people in this space don't talk about. And I think it's the stuff that the people selling advice on this stuff don't want you to know, because if you do, maybe you won't need them as much anymore. So let's start with niching down, because this is the stuff everyone's been saying forever that you need to do. And it makes sense on the surface. If you're a consultant that helps everyone, well, how sharp can you possibly be with your messaging? But if you're a consultant that works with SaaS companies, then yeah, you can get things a little bit more relevant to them. You can start using their language and say stuff like GTM and PLG and whatever else they want to talk about. You get to point to case studies of work that you've done with people just like them, and you stop sounding like everyone else. That's what should happen, but the reality, not quite that. Go look up business consultant for SaaS companies, and like front page of Google, once you get past all the ads and the AI stuff, is probably going to be about, I don't know, up to 6 different people. That's just page 1. If you keep going, you're going to find more and more and more. And niching on one hand got you there, got you kind of into the mix, but it's not giving people a reason to choose you. It's a bit annoying because niching down gets sold as the whole solution, saying if you get specific on who you help, then you'll naturally differentiate. But that hasn't been the case in a long time because everyone else is doing the same thing. Niching only answers one question: who do you want to reach? It doesn't answer the harder question of why should they pick you? So most solo founders, they're trying to answer that second question with the first, and then it doesn't work. Niching can get you compared, but it won't get you chosen. Okay, so if changing who you talk to isn't going to do anything, seems like everyone's telling you that you need to speak louder. Everywhere I look, LinkedIn, YouTube, anywhere online, you can't go a minute without hearing someone talk about how you need to build your personal brand. I have an issue with the advice they give because it's always about showing up and being consistent and be the authentic you and tell your story. And look, I've said it before that visibility matters. If you don't show up, if you're not there, how can they possibly choose you? The problem is the advice they give tells you who to become. It doesn't tell you how to get there. The best they do is tell you to share your story a lot. But if you don't know your point of view yet, then what's the point of the story? It's just a whole lot of nothing. All you end up doing is just posting consistently about yourself. And a lot of the people giving you this advice, they've already done it. They're teaching you from the destination rather than along the journey. And they're just trying to reverse engineer what they've done. The worst part is they're telling you how to be authentic, but then they're sharing templates and hooks and structures to follow and frameworks to follow. That isn't authentic at all anyway. And all this stuff they share is just focused on making you sound like whatever influencer is the flavor of the month right now. But because the people posting this stuff have like tens of thousands of followers, and then naturally their followers like them, and so they're like, yes, chiming in how amazing the advice is and whatever, and it looks like it could be legit. But when you try to implement the advice, you struggle because it's not you. And even if it gets you some visibility, that visibility is not going to get you leads. And this is because the people giving the advice don't remember what they actually did to get themselves there. They can't remember what it was like not knowing what to do. So now we've got 2 camps. We've got the niche down camp and the build a personal brand camp. And if you've tried both, you already know that it's not going to solve the problem you have. This raises a really weird question. If the 2 biggest types of advice you can get in the marketing space right now doesn't solve the problem, why is no one talking about it? Look, I think I know why. And I think it's because the actual solution is a lot harder to sell. You can package niche down as a nice little carousel to post on LinkedIn. You can turn build in public into an email sequence, but the real fix doesn't really fit in a template. It's a thing you need to do the work for, that you need to figure out for yourself, which is why the people selling advice don't love it. So here's what it actually is. I lost a project a while back that I genuinely should have won. I had a strong portfolio, worked with clients just like them. Everything was right, and the potential client had loved everything I said, but they went with someone else. So I asked why, like I always do. And sometimes I get answers, sometimes I don't. This guy answered. He told me that when he was speaking to the person he went with, they said something that he liked. He said that the agency that they went with said most agencies burn a lot of time doing strategy and meetings and all this stuff, like for weeks before they actually start doing any work. And he said 90% of that is a waste of time. So what the client had to do was just fill in a questionnaire and this guy would get started straight away. This potential client liked that. That was something that he was feeling weird about when talking to all the other agencies. So this guy said something that made this guy go, yes, that feels right to me. And so he went with them. Even though my portfolio was better, I'd worked with clients like him before, I delivered results, still went with someone else. And not gonna lie, that burned. That burned. I was a bit shitty about it. Like, come on, man. Like, how do you pick someone worse because they want to cut corners in the process? And I have a process for a reason. Like, it's what makes things work. But he said something that made the guy go yes, and that got him chosen. And that's when it kind of clicked for me. It's not your niche, it's not your personality. It's having a clear point of view about the problem your clients are trying to solve. Because there's a big difference between people knowing who you are and people knowing what you stand for. Personal branding gets people knowing who you are, but it doesn't tell them what you stand for, not alone. And what you stand for is what gets people to choose you. I'll tell you why. When a prospect hears someone say out loud the thing that they believe deep down on the inside and maybe don't talk about, their brain stops evaluating options, just stops. Because the job of evaluating is exhausting. You've got to compare portfolios and features and price and all the other stuff to pick someone because you don't want to make a mistake. But the second you say the thing they think is true, their brain recognizes that shared belief and it gets to take a shortcut. It says, hey, this person thinks what I think. They feel what I feel. So now they know that you're going to approach things the way that they believe is right. They're not hiring your portfolio anymore. Now they're hiring based off your beliefs. And that's why that recognition beats out a portfolio every time. You're not competing on the same axis anymore. Your belief is the claim you have about how things work in your industry. It's your take. And a powerful belief is one that contradicts what pretty much everyone else is saying. I'll give you an example from my own business. I believe that trying to look professional will make everyone use the same generic templatey language that everyone's using. So you end up losing your personality and your edge and all the interesting parts about you that make you appealing to certain types of people. And then you sound like a template or like someone generated you out of an AI tool. When I stopped trying to look professional and I started being me, the quality of my leads changed. I started getting people reaching out who were kind of on the same page and felt the same way I did about it. And those people who would get offended by me speaking the way I am now, and the people who wanted things very straight-laced and old school, they didn't reach out, which is great because I didn't want to do work like that anyway. I would rather work with people who share my belief than people who disagree with me. I didn't change my service at all. I didn't niche down or anything. I just said what I believed about what I do, and that kept the wrong kind of people away from me before they even jumped on a sales call. That's what a belief does. The right person sees it and says, that's my person. And the wrong person just moves on. And I know this is hard because it means you have to be willing to be wrong for some people. That's scary. You have to actually take a position. You can't sit on the fence and say, well, it depends. That's how you stay invisible. Because it depends is what everyone else in your space is saying. And if you say the same thing, you're not going to stand out. So if you want to stand out, you need to say something different, something that not everyone believes. And that means you have to be willing to say something that not everyone agrees with. So in your industry, what's the advice that everyone blindly follows that you know is broken? Write it down in one sentence and put it somewhere visible because that is your starting point. That one sentence is the first thing you've got that will take you out of the comparison pile and put you into the chosen pile. So you write down your belief. Great, you've done some work. Then you go back to your website and, ouch, it's not anywhere. Your site has words that make you sound like everyone else. So how does that happen? You have the insight and you know how you feel, but somehow your site absorbs none of it. I'll tell you how. Writing a belief in a notebook is free, costs you nothing. But putting it on your website means standing behind it. And the second you try to do that, your inner coward starts to negotiate with you. Hey, maybe we tone it down a little. What about, there's some really good clients out there that might not like this. We don't want to push away people. Or what if someone argues? And then by the time you finish negotiating, you're back to quality results because we care. That's why the belief doesn't make it to the site. Because when it comes to the crunch, you flinch. A belief only counts when it costs you something to say it. And if it's on your website, it costs you. But in a notebook, it doesn't. So I told you my belief that trying to look professional makes solopreneurs blend in. And that's nice in theory. But what does it mean when it comes to my work? For me, that means I build websites the way my clients talk. Personality, rough edges, sharp opinions, all the good stuff. I'm not turning it into corporate safe language because that's the stuff that I think is broken. That's my approach. It's the way my belief shows up when I do my job. If you're an accountant who believes that traditional numbers and books are just always looking back, maybe your approach is doing forward-thinking forecasts more often than the backward stuff. If you're a writer that thinks that all the copy out there is just the same template-y crap, maybe your approach is writing unhinged stories for your clients. And here's where it starts to sting. Because I know a lot of people are watching this going, yeah, I talk about my approach all the time. Do you? Or are you using words like quality and results-driven, premium service? Because those aren't approaches, they're outcomes. And they're the same outcomes all your competitors are using. No one's going around saying they do bad work. No one's saying they don't deliver results. So when you use terms like quality and premium, you're not really saying anything. You're just the same as everyone else. Since everyone says they're quality, you're just going to blend in. A real approach is something specific enough that your competitors would have to actually change how they do things to copy you. It comes from your belief and it describes something real about how you do the thing. No vague promises about results. We're talking about your method, something that tells people how you're going to do it. But you'll notice that I'm not removing the deliverable. Still really clear about the websites being the thing that I do, but I'm just not leaving it there. I hate it when people focus purely on the outcome and you have no idea what they actually do. Like, I deliver positive outcomes. Like, dude, what does that mean? So I'll make sure that the deliverable is clear, but I'll also be clear about what my version of the deliverable actually is. So here's what you can do. Write down how you describe your work and then go have a look at a couple of your competitors and test it. Could you put your approach onto their website and it still be true? If you can swap them and nothing really changes, you're not actually describing your approach, you're describing your category. So go back to your belief from point one and ask yourself, if I really believe this, how do I need to do my work to prove it? Describe that specifically because that is your approach. So now you've got a belief and an approach that reflects it. Great. And you've put that on your website, you've posted about it on LinkedIn or whatever it is that you do, but you're still not getting the right kinds of people approaching you. And that feels a bit unfair because you've done the hard bit. You've taken a stand. You've voiced your belief. You've kind of made sure that you have a real approach. So why aren't you getting the right kinds of leads now? Here's what's missing. You've described how you work, but you haven't really described the problem you solve. You know, the stuff that's kind of keeping them up at night. The thing that they wake up at 3 a.m. because they need to go to the bathroom and then their brain turns on and it starts thinking about it and they can't get back to sleep and they have to get up at like 5 a.m. after lying there for 2 hours. Figure they may as well start their day even though now it's going to be terrible because they had not enough sleep. Look, if you've been in business for more than 5 minutes, someone smart has already told you that you need to speak to your client's problems. And maybe you're already doing it to a certain extent. Maybe you say something like you help them get more leads or you help them stand out online or whatever it is that you do if you're not in the marketing space. It's not technically wrong, but it's not really going to work. It's the same trap as calling your service quality or results driven. Everyone out there claims to help people get more leads. No one's going to say that they get you less leads. So if you're saying, I'll get you more leads, then it's the same thing. You're the same as everyone else. You're still blending in. You're still saying nothing that matters. It's the same problem as earlier. You're blending in while saying something you think is of substance, that you think they care about. The way out is to go deeper, because the problems that people typically put on their sites, like about getting more leads and stuff like that, it's not the real problem, it's just a symptom of a problem. So you need to go deeper and find the real problem. The real problem is usually more specific and painful. So going back to my own example, I could say I build websites that get you more leads. True, but generic and forgettable. Or I could name the actual problem my clients have, which is they get leads, but those leads are already comparing them against other people. So they jump on a sales call and they're asking, what's your price? Because nothing on the website gave them a reason to care about anything else. They're not competing on expertise or right fit. They're competing on cost, and they're losing because there's always someone cheaper. For them, it's not a more leads problem, it's a my website makes me look interchangeable problem. And that connects straight back to my belief and my approach. They're trying to look professional and it's making them sound like everyone else. When your site sounds like you, your prospects show up already half sold because they want to work with you. Remember how I said that the brain likes to take shortcuts? Well, if they see that you understand their problem, even if it's something that maybe they don't talk about a lot and don't admit often, and maybe just grumble about to themselves, then they feel like you know how to solve that problem. Their brain goes, cool, this guy gets it. He can help. So your approach has to solve a problem that your prospects can see themselves in. Otherwise, you end up just making another generic promise. And what's annoying is you already know the exact words your clients use. You've heard them say it on sales calls and you've seen it in the emails. They don't say, I'm looking to optimize my digital potential. They say, I'm sick of getting price shopped by tire kickers. It's just you haven't put it on your website. And I can tell you why. It's usually not because you forgot or you didn't have the time. It's because when you looked at those words, something inside you said, that's too narrow, it's too specific. What about people who don't feel that way or don't think that way? It might turn potential clients away. And that means on some level, you'd rather be invisible to your ideal client, the kinds of people you really work with, than potentially not appeal to everyone. That's the actual problem. It's not your niche, it's not your brand. It's you're choosing safety over being chosen. And that one's hard for me to fix for you because the words are already there. You just have to be willing to use them. If you want to do it right, go back to real conversations you've had with previous clients. What did they say when they first reached out? What were the exact words they used to describe how they feel and their frustrations and the things that are bothering them? And then ask yourself, does my approach solve that specific problem? If it does, great. You get to put the problem in their words on your website and talk about your approach that fixes it. That's what makes the right person stop scrolling and actually reach out, take some action. So we've got these two camps, niche down, build a personal brand. And they're not wrong, they're just incomplete because neither option tells people why you're the one to pick. See, there's two piles in every prospect's head. There's the compared pile, and then there's the chosen pile. And niching and branding can potentially get you into the compared pile, which is great. Definitely better than not being considered at all. But it's still a pile where the answer typically comes down to price or availability or some other feature that they want. Now, the chosen pile is different. That's the pile where someone actually read something in your site that made them say, yes, that's who I want to work with, and they don't really want to consider anyone else. And the only thing that moves you from one pile to the other is owning a belief, making it visible in your approach, and naming the exact problem the right person is living with that your approach fixes. So it's not niching or branding, but it is the difference between being compared and being chosen. For more advice on positioning and how to land the clients that really should be yours, check out my weekly newsletter for solo founders. The link is in the description. See you next time.